The regular committee meeting to order at 7:04. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Bell?
Here.
Trustee Brewer? Trustee Grant?
Here.
Trustee Jazinski? Here. Trustee Todd? Here. Trustee Williams? Here.
Okay, this particular one, we're not going to go into recess executive session, so we'll move right on to discussions. The first one that's coming before us is brought to us by, I don't know where she at, oh yes she is. It's Latoya McCoy, and I think the first presentation is by Prove It IT. And sir, all the things I can tell you, speaking to the mic, because if you don't, you would hear. Outside of that, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you very much. Can you guys hear me okay?
No.
We can.
Am I gonna be able to?
It's
Is that
on.
any better?
No.
No, sure it's not.
It should be a great life.
Little gray by pushing it. The light comes green.
You got it?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much for having me out tonight. So what we were bringing up for everybody and starting to work on now is around the permit applications and the reoccupancy applications, and being able to look at creating a digital format for you that would be able to be filled out directly from your website. This would also allow us to begin a process from the actual application for reoccupancy to an approval and inspection process, allowing us to even collect electronic payment so that the payment does not need to be done in here, where somebody, as they're filling it out, can submit all their documentation to you, essentially allowing them, depending on what they're selecting, to include all of the required fields, documentation, create everything that you would need on the permit process itself, all the information you would need to collect for contacting the requester, still collect your signatures, and then submit the document itself. Now, once that file is submitted, you will be able to, as a user, download and keep a copy of the application yourself, as well as have this come through to where we can configure emails to directly come to you internally, letting us know that a new application has been submitted, what that property address is, and a way to quickly get to that form that is filled out for review. In the review process, we would have the ability to then select an inspector if there's an outside inspector that has to go through. You can approve or reject the actual submission of the application just based on the required documentation being there and being able to review that everything is correct. Once that would go through, we would also have the ability to then send the task itself to the inspector, giving them all the information that they would need directed to their email on what address it's at, who the person is that you need to contact, what their contact number would be, and then again for them to be able to either complete the inspections on paper the way they currently are and upload the actual documents when they've completed, or we can customize this to include the standard inspection questions and documentation, as well as include the ability for them to put in any photos of notes that they need to make, and ultimately approve or reject the application based on the inspection so that the users and the residents would get instant notification as to whether the application was approved based on the inspection results, any notes that need to come back to them in terms of any repairs that may need to be made before it can be approved, or if it is approved, to send them the information as well as the actual documentation for them to download and retain for their records that a certificate was approved on for reoccupancy. Another piece to this that we do have, and there's several forms within this system that come either pre-built or that we've done for other municipalities, whether it be, I've got my list up here for any type of building permits, and that would include the project work required, so you know who needs to review it, what inspections have to happen. Some additional in terms of permit applications and being able to even have business applications, you know, the pet licensing as well. I want to point out the fact that this isn't just a system specifically made for, you know, free occupancy or for your standard permits. It's something that can be customized and changed based on what you want to do with it, whether we're working in terms of internal documents and forms or external ones that we want to have public facing to make it more easier to access everything. And with any of them, if there is something that requires us to collect payment, we have the ability to pass this through for electronic payment or set it into a queue for when we need to come in or send in a payment that we can then log we've confirmed and received it and be able to continue the process along. This one is another one around permit applications where once you basically go in and select whether you're doing residential or commercial work, you then have that same ability now to type, describe what work is being done, include multiple fields if you need to have multiple of the different permits for it, as well as then being able, on the other side of it, to collect and calculate what the total permit cost would be to the resident before they've even completed the form, so that if they wanted to start, it's all pre-calculated and we're confirming and getting receipt that we received payment on these before we're pushing it to the permit process and inspections afterwards. The next piece to this is any of the forms that we create can be stored inside our document repository as well, where we can then collect information against the records. So when we submit any of these types of records, not only can we collect information, pictures, documents, and store it all inside the information based on what's submitted, but we collect what we call metadata on the documentation as well. So if it's any type of application that either does require inspection after a certain amount of time, reminders can be pre-configured that if the inspection has not been scheduled, we're sending out alerts. If there's renewals that are required, we have the ability to automatically notify anybody of their renewal deadlines, put the reminders in and build reporting around what documents have been resubmitted or not. And then be able to set retention policies behind these as well, so that any type of document coming in or supporting documentation is all maintained for the appropriate amount of time. We give you the ability with all of that to also search based on the documents themselves, the types of applications, permits, or inspections, as well as the text inside the documents. So that becomes a key piece when it comes to reviewing information or even looking against different processes that have happened or inspections that we've seen. Typically, I give the example when it comes to how you can search a document within the system when you think of more on an account payable process, where if you said a year ago we bought 10 computers, but I don't know who we bought them from or what they were for, but we need to find that. Instead of searching through receipt after receipt or, you know, an inspection or application, you can search the terms and the text within the page to where, without knowing specifically where a file is, if you know what you're looking for, you can search. It will then pull every single result off of every document that you have access to where, in that case, when I speak to the accounts payable side, if I go to my invoices here, you can then see in the lower side where it's giving me results directly off the page until I find the right document. From there, if I select it, I can open that document, and it doesn't matter if it's 1 page or 1,000, it's going to bring me directly to the page it found that term on, highlight it for me, and give me that result where I can then start reviewing and comparing other documents, link documents to the information, and be able to start going from one document to the other without having to continue searching in between everything. So I know that I wanted to keep things fast and just start giving a quick overview of it. The forms and those submissions were kind of one of those key points and processes, whether it's the permit applications, whether it's reoccupancy, and just showing the ability that it can be customized. This one, I basically took your current paper document and rebuilt it as an electronic form where we did put some of those additional pieces where based on what decisions we're making or what we're filling out, if we know that, you know, in terms of the current property is being an as-is closing, that we need the affidavit for that and making that required versus just taking up space that may not be used, to keep it small and to try to keep it simple without having all the extra blank fields that we really wouldn't need throughout the process because it's not part of what that person's actual application is necessary. All of these can be 100% customized, and we do build a process behind them, so as we go through and are looking at the different types that we do, whether it be we need multiple internal approvals on the documents submitted, or we need external tasks or communication, all of that can happen automatically. In terms of when you're looking at this one, as soon as the form is submitted, it goes to the internal approval, then it goes to the inspection. From there, it actually emails the resident of the inspection results and can electronically sends over that communication, so you don't have to manage once it's approved what happens or once it's denied what happens. We can generate your permits, your certificates, whether it's building or business, and automatically populate and track all that information for you. I think that was everything I had to show you all tonight. Were there any questions?
Oh, yeah.
What's the cost?
So the cost is more dependent on how much we're doing, where if you said that one person's gonna access this in terms of internally, and there was just the two main forms we talked about, your cost behind it might be $200 a month for 3 years. If you told me that there was 20 people accessing this and you wanted 50 different processes available, of course then it expands, so we're still in some of that discovery phase to determine what the right route is and how many is the right amount of users. But with other municipalities that have done similar either forms processes or document retention, most of the time we were somewhere between a $200 to $600 a month price range. And that included all of the development modifications, any type of support, maintenance that was needed during that 3-year period.
How many municipalities are you currently doing?
There's at least, I'd say 4 or 5 that I could work with directly. In terms of our entire team, there's probably another 20 to 25 that we work with. And it ranges from the forms that I was bringing up, the web form, to document retention. I know I'm working right now with Village of Oni, and they're scanning all of their ordinances and account payable records for retention. They're looking to move to the electronic form in the future. There are a couple of others that start whether it be for even public record requests, things like that, where maybe it's more searchable to find the documentation and attaching it to the forms like that, with some of the processes that we've done.
Okay, I do have a, first of all, I don't know if I did ask this before, but, when we get this information, have we downloaded it to the cloud?
That is up to you. This can be hosted on a server on premise, can be hosted on a cloud-hosted server like an Amazon web server, or there's a completely SaaS-based cloud software version of this. In my experience, most of the municipalities prefer on-premise retention on the records.
And there is an interface with our current civic system, correct?
Yes.
And I don't know if I asked, but upfront costs, software costs, update costs.
So there's annual support and maintenance, which is going to be your updates whenever upgrades or updates come out. That is about 10 to 15% of the software price annually. The software is user-based, so that's one of the parts I don't have the exact number on yet to be able to commit to. But if I was to give you a range and kind of an estimate on average, your users, depending on the licensing, could range from $100 annually to a $700 to $800 license that you purchase for a perpetual license. So that's where some of the decisions that we have to kind of come through with and determine what's the best route and which is going to see the better comparison in upfront cost and ROI over the years. Because there's also subscription type licensing, which is just the annual subscription, but it's typically a lower upfront cost.
Because I have seen where you get an update or you look for an update. The first thing they said, well, you have to change A, B, and C in order for this update to take effect. Your equipment is too old, so therefore you have to get this to compatible for that. I'm just, because sometimes when you do enter into something that we never had before, is it someone can come out and let us know before we even do this, is our equipment compatible? Do we have to get something else to go along with our equipment, another application or something to add on to that? And then now I'm listening to the software is 100 annually, okay, but that's for that particular, because if you have a computer, if you, after 30 days, then you hit a button, say update. There's always updates for whatever reason, whatever you have. I'm just looking at this. Do the updates come with this? What comes with the $200 is just monthly users. In other words, if we have 1 or 2 users, it'll be covered. Anyone else after that, then the cost would actually go up accordingly. But I just want to make sure that my real issue is compatibility.
Sure, so before we do anything and move forward on anything, we have our project team come out. They'll review what the current technology is here and make sure that it's compatible, as well as give recommendations on, based on what that current technology is, how long we would expect that to last and continue to work for this solution. When it comes to the end users and internally, when you're accessing this system, most of the time you're accessing it directly through basically a web portal, to where as long as you have, whether it be Chrome, Internet Explorer, whatever it may be, you will be able to access this. I can access all the files from my phone or from a tablet as well. So it's not so much everybody's personal hardware, it's just the server that we would need to verify has the compatibility and capabilities. On the licensing and the support, if we went with perpetual licensing, the price is a little bit higher up front, but then your annual cost is lower. Your annual cost does give you the updates, upgrades, any type of patches, if there's any bugs that they fix, all of that. Anything we build in terms of improving and our solutions team, if we engineer a form or a process or a workflow, we guarantee that even through updates to where as long as it's not changed in terms of we used to fill this out this way, but now we're going to change that process, that's all included in the annual support. So any fixes that we have to do because of an upgrade or just because it doesn't seem to be working right, as long as it's not because the process that we originally built the scope of work around changes, there's no charge for that.
And now we're just, okay, because when we're talking about, you mentioned about occupancy. If you add other facets to it, is there more of a charge?
So for the licensing and subscription has been the more common one recently, so I'll speak to that first. The subscription licensing is based on a few pieces. One is public forms. So ones that anybody can access without having a username or password, so the permits your applications. The only cost you have behind that there is the one license for public forms annually. And if you wanted us to create 100 forms and there weren't already pre-created ones that were usable, so we had to make them, the time to actually build them. Doesn't matter how many people submit them, what the process behind that is. You only pay for that one public license to allow people to access that and fill any of those forms out. It doesn't matter if they're unlimited submissions. Second part is your participant users. Those users are the people who, once a form is submitted, have the ability to approve them, deny them, see the supporting documents, and make those decisions on what happens in the process. Those users are the ones that are gonna typically be around $100 per user annually.
Yeah, per year, correct?
Correct. So this is that subscription one, so all of this is kind of an annual pricing for the subscription. The third one is your full users. That's typically the smallest amount of users you have. And most of the time we see it'll be a couple people per department that are actually interacting with that system. Those are the users that have the ability to not only see the files, but if there ever needed to be a change to the metadata or retention policies, or they needed to configure additional users, those are kind of like your administrative users. And those users are typically gonna range around $600 per user. And those are your annual prices. Now, the software itself, the licensing for the main component on the subscription pricing is all included with those user fees, including if you ever decided to do things like the archives and take any type of paper records you have, all of that, the software that does the capture, it's just one bundled suite where as long as you have the subscription account, all of the pieces are included for, and the only kind of difference is you start at those 10 full users, and that's their minimum on the subscription. You can have as many of the participant users as you want, and then one single license for the public forums.
You mentioned a 3-year agreement. Do you offer any other agreements?
So we do anything from outright, in terms of you can pay for that first year of the subscription and any development that is required. And then we do everything from 3-year to 5-year agreements on the software. But you could go year to year if you wanted to.
So we can do year to year.
Absolutely.
And what if we wanted to terminate within a year? We need like 30 days notice? Is that mutual?
So the only thing that we would need is once the licensing is purchased for the year, they do not credit anything back on that year, so we would just need to know prior to the year expiring that you did not want to pay.
I have a question. You said the user would be $600 each, is that what you said? Or the question is, for users that use only read access only, maybe they want to print out something or something, that would be $600?
No, the read-only users
Yeah.
would be the $100.
The $100, okay.
Think of the full user
Mm.
as the administrators. I can
Right.
give you access, I can change the files, I can
Mm.
move things. If I just want to be able to look at the file, print it,
Right, that would
that's
cost
the
$6, well,
$100.
that's reasonable, right, yeah. And we won't be able to change anything that's in there, that's, right, read only access, great. But we'll be able to print, right?
Correct.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
So will you work with the director and get us like a proposal? Because I mean, right now you're just throwing a lot of figures out, but I mean, you
Right.
want to know, okay, how many users do you plan to have? How many, just what, our guess is that we will continue to pay on a yearly basis?
Yes, that's the next step, is to get the total number that we feel appropriate on the full users, how many approvers there need to be in the processes that we're talking about, and then what processes in particular we want to do for the forms. So then we can come back and say, all the users plus the engineering time is going to cost X dollars, and then your annual after that would be whatever based on those users. So you have a plan behind it, plus if you were, we break it out in terms of if there were additional users, what those costs are, because there are breaks if you, at certain points where if you said we have 30 of those participant users, that $100 drops to, I think it's like 70 per user that. And so there, we'll give you all of that scale and what we're expecting that annual price to look like.
And what about support, as far as, when we go into the setup phase, where you got somebody out here to help us, assist the department with whoever is going on with this, and then continue on after we're done, with the support phase, the setup phase?
So the process for us is typically once we said, okay, we want to move forward, is that project team that came out to verify the technology is capable of what we want to do. They put together the full scope of work by working with that department, determining what those documents are, what needs to happen when it's filled out, when payments need to be collected, when escalations have to happen. They get the full range of what could possibly happen from that one piece of paper and what the process looks like if somebody did fill it out. Who does it go to, when does it get there? And then they'll work alongside them, build the entire process, go into a testing phase where at that point, it's not actually, sending the inspector notification to go inspect, but it's allowing everybody to run through that process, verify everything's 100%, at which point we do support the go live and launching everything, and then thereafter, we typically give a 30 to 60 day window for something came up in the middle that we forgot about and didn't mention, and being able to kind of go back in and make changes to it without there being any additional costs behind those changes because they weren't part of the original scope, if that was the case.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay, this is the first, hopefully we can get some data and some numbers put together to find out the actual cost. You stated, is it a contract that we enter into, is 3 to 5, either 3 or 5 years, correct?
At 3, 4, or 5, or
Okay.
the option to essentially purchase upfront and where you can pay for that first year of subscription and development, and there's no commitment after that. If you decide to continue using it, you can renew that subscription. If you decided you wanted to end it, you can cancel that subscription.
I just want to make sure in no way will it affect anything else that's going on within that, civic. Once you get into it, I mean, I'm sure the IT guy and then our IT guy will get together to find out how they can interface with that.
Right, absolutely.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
your time.
Thank you.
You don't want to get another one on that, but unless we have another presentation.
Right, but we, first is gonna come later.
Okay, the next item we have is application for a business license from a tobacco and pipe, for tobacco and pipe. From Mr. Adele Abdul, is he here?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Yes, sir. Okay, give me this, you need to, I've already told you, you need to, let the board aware what it is you're trying to do so there can be a license for that.
well, what I'm trying to put into there is the tobacco, the bongs, the pipes, the vapes, the hookah, all the glassware.
So what's your business?
Cell phones, clothing, and tobacco.
And you want to add
The glassware.
glassware?
The glassware with the hookahs and everything. The tobacco, cigars.
Okay.
Now, you're saying tobacco, cigarettes, and cigars, but you're not talking about a cigar shop, are you?
We're gonna add a humidifier in there for cigars.
I mean,
Yes.
do you want to be able to have like a cigar?
Cigar selection, yes. with a-
I mean, I'm talking about just sell, not for consumption.
No, for sale, all for sale.
So not like a cigar lounge?
No, not allowed, just to sell. Retail.
And this is tobacco only, or this is tobacco and marijuana, or what?
No, just tobacco.
Just to be clear, I mean,
That's a $60,000 license alone.
January 1st is coming, so.
Yeah, I know. We just want to sell the accessories.
And when you say pipes, you're talking about the glass pipes?
Yes, for the tobacco and everything else. The hookahs.
I don't know what
A hookah is several people can,
it's a-
All flavored tobacco. And apple, cherry.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's pipe tobacco there.
Similar, but it's like
But a hookah has, if I'm not mistaken,
charcoal.
Is that the
several
one with
people,
the water?
Yeah, one with the
several
water.
people can sit around it and you're puffing off of it. I don't know about getting high.
And now, you're talking about just selling the product?
Yeah, the products, yeah. Everything that's included with tobacco. from the glassware and all the items, so.
But right now, we don't have any type of license for that, so the board will have to agree to,
Yes.
to that, so. Are there any questions any other board member has?
Where is this at?
2583 East Sauk Trail.
Okay.
How do the other businesses go about getting a license for that, for selling the cigarettes and?
Cigarettes, that's not our purview, we can't stop that, they have to apply that themselves, because it's not illegal, in other words, it's not a controlled substance.
I made, in the other shops we had was just one tobacco license,
Right.
just approval of the town you're in, if it's okay to
To
put
sell-
certain items in.
Right, that's all I was gonna say, that's what he's asking for, to sell the paraphernalia that goes along with that. But right now, I remember a few years ago, one of the, I guess it was called Carbon back then, was selling those things, and we told him not to do that. So that's basically, he's not asking for a license for tobacco, that he wants a license for. But he needs to know about the paraphernalia, he wants to be able to have it in his shop, and is it okay with the board?
Did you mention bongs? You said hookah and,
Yeah, everything that goes with it.
Trustee?
Do we have any other stores, establishments? and
That's
stuff?
why, this is why this was here.
Do we need an ordinance or something?
That's why this is here. Yeah, that's why he's here, because there's nothing in place for the paraphernalia. And once you create that, then you do understand, it's like creating anything else, other places to do the same thing.
Right, so Mr. Mayor, do we plan to just open one license at a time for right now? So it'll be just this business and then
Well,
other businesses?
it's not just a license, it gives him permission to operate under that, you're not being able to sell that, those paraphernalia. And once, like I said before, right now, there's nothing created. Once you create it, you cannot limit it, I mean, what you will say, he can, he
No,
can't.
I'm saying, but we just create one for now, and then as other businesses come to us, we approve them as well. Or do we say we're gonna create 5 right now, and then as the 5
That
businesses?
part, I'm not sure if there's if you have, I know you have to have an ordinance. Once that ordinance is in place, it's for anyone that sells tobacco.
Mhm.
So whether or not you say one for this one, no, it's not like a liquor license. A liquor license is a little different. This is giving him the power to sell those items.
So I don't know if
So,
I'm,
this
I'm
is,
curiosity trying to get educated. How do they charge by the cigar or something?
The cigars are all different prices, the tobacco is also different prices, the glassware, they start from 5, 10, 15, 20, 30. Most expensive hookah would go to 500,
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
10 feet, 13 feet.
I will say this, we will be looking into the past records to see if there's any, because that right there, I'm sure when we grant something like that, that would be able to be the only stipulations, any infractions that were on that particular property, whether or not they can do that. Move forward with doing that. But once that license or ordinance or application is presented and the board votes on it, then yes, the only thing we'll have to be able to control it would be prior infractions on that particular business, which makes sense. So if there are any other questions, and then what we'll have to do is get a ordinance drawn up, have the ordinance review look at it, and then bring it back to the board. Any other questions? Thank you, sir. We will be in touch with you as soon as we get those things together. Thank you.
You bring some sample? Need some here.
Okay, the next one is presentation of inspection findings and its impact. You want to make it like a theater room? Are you getting ready to do the presentation? Oh, no.
Wait a minute, there's no streets on my street. The street before me. No, what's that like? I didn't take it. So how did you get it? Oh, but when you like, how's Bucks been finding? What the hell? the back or the side of the using? Like the next, you could not grab it. Yeah, granddaughter.
She's like, that's good.
She's gonna say, but she's gonna leave.
No, that's just your point. Oh, okay, so you're gonna still let me? Yeah, I'll let you.
Thank you, Mayor, Clerk, Board. As you guys probably know, my name is Tanya McCoy. I am the interim Community Development Director here in Sauk Village. And a couple of weeks ago, we had a lot of the inspectors come and give their opinions on our inspection process. So I want to talk a little bit tonight about why we kind of made some adjustments to the inspection process. And like I told you guys before, political winds shift, but the needs of the community, they do not. I am here for the needs of the people in this community. I am not an elected official, but I was hired to serve you, the village, the people here in the Village of Sauk Village. And that's what I'm going to do. So the inspection process and why the inspections are important. It is recommended that home inspectors are bonded, insured, certified by the State of Illinois Department of Professional Regulations. Our inspectors that use inspectors that carry out necessary testing, measuring equipment to properly inspect homes for life safety hazards. Home inspection and reoccupancy inspections. Important to maintain standards of home and rentals in the village. Important to public safety and health of family renting homes in the village. Important to life safety. All of the following are examples of photos that were taken in homes inspected here in Sauk Village within the last year. And this is just a little bit more information about the licensing of the home inspectors that we use here in the village. Okay, so structural safety and completeness. Okay, you can see, let me see if I get my pointer thing. Right here where there is missing one of the slats. It's important that we inspect things like that so that we can keep our children safe. I probably can't fit in that slat, but a child 1 year old can go right through that. But if we don't inspect the house, we wouldn't see that. This fire and explosion of open gas lines, that's an open gas line. When you go in and do an inspection, wouldn't you want somebody to see an open gas line in your house? If you don't do inspections, you would never catch that. The inspectors use the meters to determine gas leaks. Gas leaks and explosions can happen naturally. I mean, it can harm the occupants in the house, and we want to make sure that that does not happen here in Sauk Village. This is another, safety with the electrical. Now, keep in mind, some of these things, I know the process before was all about certifications, and electrical certification, roofing certification, HVAC certification, and there was a fourth one. But a lot of times, from previous, times, people will go in and say they inspected something, but when the inspectors go back and it's been approved, it looks like that. I mean, that's what we get. Open drain line. This is actual sewage coming up into the house. If we don't inspect things like this is what we get. You, the people of Sauk Village, deserve better. Moisture. You can tell when you have moisture, that's what promotes the mold. And as we know, here in Sauk Village, there's a problem with the moisture. There's a lot of times I don't know why it is, but there's a lot of mold, and we got to test for moisture to make sure that the tenants don't have mold. That's an open light bulb without a cap on it. If a child or anybody gets up there and touch that, that can actually hurt someone. This is a straight pipe. This right here, that's a village services. If we don't go in and do an inspection, we will never catch things like this. People getting free water. Handrails, faulty handrails. That's a safety hazard. We are all getting older. We need to depend on those safety rails. If I can't lean on that, then guess what? I can fall over, I can do anything. But if we don't inspect things like this, we will never know. That's another thing that catches gas and fumes that come into the house from the furnace and hot water heaters. Deck collapse. If you can see the mold and corrosion of this deck, that's not safe. If we don't do inspections, we won't find things like this. Another with the overloaded electrical sockets. I mean, these are things that you want inspected because that's a safety hazard. That can start a fire. That can, do all kinds of damage to the homes. Again, this is all about electrical outlets and things that were approved look at that. Now, this is stuff we would not catch, but yet the investor thinks it's okay for you, your families to live in stuff like this. I don't think that. Go forward. Mold and mildew. Again, this has been an ongoing problem. I get calls daily about mold, about the children being sick in the homes from the mold. It's imperative that we continue to do inspections that will catch things like this and require the landlord to actually do something about it. Another mold. I mean, look at that. That's not acceptable. Yeah, that was in June. All of these pictures are last year. The one inspector had a disc of 3,600 pictures of violations. 3,600. That's toxic black mold. And this is not, again, I can't stress how much it's imperative that we raise our standards so that we can increase the values in our houses, so that our families will be safe, not have inspections. That's crazy. Next. This is a mold test. That's 300. That's hazardous mold. That's the highest level of mold. Look at this. This is so dangerous. It is flooding. The home's pipes burst. If left uncorrected, when your pipes burst, that results into structural damages and mold growth. It continues on and on. Right. I believe this was just taken very recently. Very dangerous. We would not know that this exists if we did not have the proper inspections. Our inspectors that we use here in the village are licensed by the state. They are regulated by the state. I have done my homework. I have spoken with the state, and what I've gotten back is they applaud what Sauk Village has put in place because it's catching things. It's allowing the process to take place as it should. You cannot just bribe a licensed home inspector because they don't need your $300 to make a place unsafe for a child. You can't do that. So that's another reason why the investors are so gung-ho about making things where you don't have to inspect it. because you have to go through the proper process. You have to put a little bit of money into your property in order to have safety measures in place for kids and families. That's a problem. It's not always, it shouldn't always be about the bottom line, but a lot of times it is, but it shouldn't be. It should be about the health and safety of the families here in Sauk Village. Next. Same thing. Same corrosion, that could lead to serious damage, not only to the homes, but to the families that live in the homes. Same corrosion, leaks, that leads to other things that's pretty bad when you talk about the septic waste that leaks into the property from things like this. It's the meter showing the water stains and damage in the house from the drywall. A lot of times what happens is they'll paint over the stains, or they'll paint over something, which leads to, the family moving in, and then after they get there, they see, oh wow, there was a leak. And a lot of times when there's a leak, that's how the mold grows, that's how it infests. Same thing, when you look about, Sue and I work together with code enforcement, and when you see things like this, we want to make the properties as nice as we can possibly make them without being dangerous. And the structural stuff that you see here is not safe. If it goes unrepaired, it just continues to get worse and worse and worse. And we want to make sure that does not happen. When these inspectors go in, they make you fix it right then and there, and it does not continue to get bad. Now let's see. So a lot of the standards that we use here are recognized by HUD, the government agency. They recognize the importance of having a thorough home inspection, and they actually require that the landlords go through the inspection process before renting properties. So that's important to know that HUD actually count on us to do our due diligence here in the village. So when they rent a property, they know that when we give a certification, this property is actually a good property for the person to live in. So this, again, let's just talk about HUD again and how they require inspections and how they look for us to inspect the homes prior to them having their own inspection. They have a very long 8-page inspection list themselves, but they do ask that we do our due diligence here in the village, and that's exactly what we do. I think that's the last one. Okay, so again, I personally would never want to, I'm an investor. Outside of Sauk Village, I invest. I've been investing for many, many, many years, been a landlord for many years. I put the people that purchase my properties or either live in the properties up here because that's where they deserve to be. Just like all of you deserve to be. You don't have to lower your standards in order to make someone else happy. You keep your standards high because that's what you deserve. That ends my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great informative presentation. The next item, Mr. Gary Bell, Trustee Gary Bell, guess is going to be for Bud's ambulance dispatch service.
Thank you, Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ryan Roberts. He's one of the top guys at Buzz Ambulance Service, and he's going to give us a presentation to take over our fire dispatch.
What you said, president to take over, or?
Sorry, he's looking to earn our business. I'll rephrase.
No, but he's going to do a quote.
Yeah, he's going to give you an estimation.
Fire only.
Fire only, but he'll explain there's something for special police.
Is your mic on? Here you go, okay. All right, Ron, floor is yours, sir.
All right, thank you, Mayor, clerks, village trustees, citizens. My name is Ron Robertson. I'm the Executive Director of Central Dispatch, which is owned by Buzz Ambulance. We're here to talk tonight about some dispatch issues. Okay. We're here to talk about some dispatch issues that have been brought to our attention of problems. And I'm sure not going to sit here and badmouth your current system that you currently have. Every business has their own issues. Talking with Trustee Bell, I know for a fact that we could save you guys probably on average of about $90,000 a year compared to what you're paying now. If we do a difference in breakup between fire and PD. There's a couple different things going on out there right now with dispatch centers, radios, technology's changing. Like on the police side, your police band's not going to be worth anything in 2 years. It's not going to be there. We're going to have to buy new radios. I know when you guys went with Calcom that you had to purchase new software and hardware and all sorts of stuff. One of the things we're proposing is looking at taking over your fire side as soon as possible due to technical issues that the fire department has had. Which we still have to come up with an exact cost because you would have to break part of your contract with Kurtz. The way your contract is written with Kurtz, which is Calcom, is there's a 17% surcharge that breaks your contract. It's a very high surcharge. And they charge you by the fiscal year. Right now I know for a fact that your ETSP, which is the Emergency Transportation Safety Board, that the money comes to the Calcom dispatch from the state of Illinois from your phone bills and stuff like that is about $98,000 a year. That's what you're getting towards their fair share of what happens with that money. I'm sure that your police chief and your fire chief are on that board, or their designees would be on that board. Realistically, is that the right amount? Folks, you need to look into it, because I know of towns that are the same size, same populations that are getting a lot more money than you guys are getting. They're getting about $130,000. And $30,000 to any town at today's rate is a lot. I think that this board needs to do a investigation. I look through your contract, and you guys pay for your phone bills, your connections to Calcom. We run 3 different towns right now, and we do a flat fee for the towns. And then any other bills that come out, phone bills, connection fees, are all taken care of by the ETSP, so it doesn't cost the towns anymore. I don't know if your ETSP is doing it that way, but we've been talking with Cook County Police Sheriff's Office, who does a lot of dispatch for PD around the county. They're willing to come in with us as a team, and between the two of us, if you want to look at the whole picture, we could probably save you anywhere to about $150,000 a year with new technology equipment provided by Cook County for the PD side. We would provide fire side updates for radios and stuff. Plus, Cook County also gets 50% of their surcharge money from the state, which is the TSP money, the $98,000. Cook County gives that back to the villages to help operate the villages' monies, upgrades, or whatever. All the technology from them is free. They're willing to, if they get into the system, their PD would also provide new radios for the police department, which is about a $70,000 savings to the village. Like I said, the next 2 years, it's going to come up that you guys are going to have to buy this stuff if you don't do something. Our big thing is the service that the fire department's had issues with, calling Calcom, not getting answers, not dispatching calls for a period of time. I'm not going to sit here and badmouth Calcom. It's not a bad group of people. They're not a bad operation. Everybody has issues, but the big part is you guys need to probably save some money in this time. I know that all of our towns that we deal with, we do a pretty darn cheap price for them. And when we bid it out in 2015, and I know the Mayor, you were on the board. And we could save you guys money. Bottom line, if you want to do an investigation committee into it, I've been more than willing to help with the investigation on it. There's just certain things that we can't get our hands on, but the board would have to get their hands on. The finding from the ETSB. Even though they're public meetings, Calcom does not publish their minutes online, so we can't get to them. Again, if we go with a combined effort of Cook County and us, the police department gets new MGTs, which is the little computers in cars. You get those free. All the software is free. And it's something that this board needs to look at, to save money for the village and improve the services for the police and fire. And you guys, I'm sure, talk to the police and the fire departments, talk to the officers, talk to the firemen, and their frustrations in regards to communications. That's all I really have. I'm willing to join if somebody wants to put a committee together and ask me to sit in on it. I'll be more than happy to. I'm an advisor for the ETSB for the current Central Dispatch Board now. And sit in on it with you guys and help you try to figure it out and then come back with prices. Like I said, we could save anywhere between $70,000 and $150,000 for this. Between $70,000 and $150,000 we could save for this.
Could you, for the record, so clerk can know, could you explain what the acronym ETSB is?
It's the Emergency Transportation Safety Board. It's a separately governing body by the state of Illinois, it's ran by the Illinois State Police. The village board has still safe on that board. They have, ETSB has their own attorney and everything. It's a central governing body. And then they decide, each town has certain members. Each town has a fire chief, a police chief. There's one, a citizen at large. There's two other people involved. You can't think what they are, but or their titles. But one citizen from one of the towns gets involved, and they're all voting members. There's a voting member from the dispatch center on it. Again, I'm not a voting member. I'm an advisor to them. Because some of the towns like not to do their paperwork on time. And when it doesn't get done on time, you guys are the losers, not us. We get our money no matter what. So, we want to make sure, which we work constantly with the towns to make sure that they're getting their money from the state of Illinois.
Okay, I do have a couple. Did you say that going with you, we could get radios, because that's getting ready to be a mandate pretty soon?
By the year 2021, Mayor, the UHF radios that the police department currently uses is going to be gone. UHF is going to be a gone thing. And county has their own nationwide, their own area-wide network on the radios. They just invested over $65 million in updates, technology, and stuff. They would be willing to give you guys, I think, up to 12 radios, because I know we all know nobody has 12 officers on it at any given time when something major is going on. But that would include your command staff and stuff. And that's, figure about $5,000 a radio.
Yeah.
And they're called Starcom radios. The technology is state of the art. I think Trustee Bell would know more about that stuff. But it's state of the art, it's digital. They would provide that. They would provide the MVTs in the vehicles, free software for it. The only thing you would have to pay for is the hockey puck, which is your wireless card in the thing. Depending on who you go with and the prices, you guys can negotiate that with your different carriers. Most of the police departments do use Verizon just because they get the best price. But everybody has their prices. Everybody's out there. That technology is changing too. You don't want to do it the cheap way and buy a receiver so that you can receive the information in the smart car. You have to buy the transponder. So the officers can transpond the information to dispatch. They can get the information back. Because by the time you realize you're being pulled over, they've already ran your license plates. They already know who you are, your car is registered to. They know everything about you before they even walk up on you.
Now, you said fireside only. I'm sure you're looking to be a dispatcher for both. You wouldn't want two dispatchers coming.
The trick is, I talked with the fire department, I have a real good relationship with the fire department. The police department, I know the new chief, we've never sat down and talked, but we're seriously looking at fireside because of the issues with delayed responses for us being called, to either buds, the fire department being dispatched, different stuff of that type of nature. When the fire department's on the scene and they're calling Kelcom dispatch on the radio and nobody's answering them, that's a problem. That's a major problem. And, I mean, you can take testimonies from Chief Myers, some of the other guys that have had issues, which is why they asked me to come kind of give a small presentation. I didn't come in with a contract. I'm not looking to sit here and spend hours with you guys. I know a lot of you from the past, and you guys are very smart. And if you play your cards right, you can move ahead with technology, save yourself some money. If you go to Cook County, all your 911 lines would go straight to Cook County. And then they would transfer the phone calls to us for EMS or fire, and we would dispatch from there. Everybody's like, oh, that takes time. It takes about 10 seconds. That's all it really takes to get that call transferred. You have, it's better to have one dispatch center, but you could have two. Calumet City is a very big town. They do fire dispatch out of Orland Park. And they charge, I think, $48 a call. So every time they dispatch a Cal City call, Orland charges them $48. So you can tell how much money they're spending out the door. It's a win-win for the village to look into how much money that you're really getting from the ETSP and what they're doing with your money to start with. And to sit down and talk about, as a committee, with, I think, Trustee Bell, you're in charge of public safety, just the whole idea of sitting down and looking at the different options out there. Cook County is willing to come out and make a presentation with us. It's a joint effort that we're working on with some of our towns, as well as we have like 3 or 4 other towns that are very interested in our dispatch. And if we do that, we're just going to lower your prices. More towns, lower prices, things go for everybody. Like right now, I don't know for sure, I can't say, but I believe that Kelcom's radio is microwaved off the radio of the firehouse. We do it 2 different ways. We microwave it off the firehouse, as well as we have a base station in our building that's a 185-foot tower. We talk to Linwood Fire all the time on that tower. It's just as a backup. I mean, you read your contract. I don't know how many of you have read your contracts, looked at them, but this contract has got a lot of flaws in it. It's got a lot of flaws. If something happens to that Kelcom building, what are you guys going to do for dispatch? I'm sure they have a backup for your 911 and radio. Most of your stuff, according to this, it's a natural disaster or something, you're out of luck.
Well, I'm just wondering why just the fire department. I mean, that would be kind of, that means you would have to still pay 2. Why not have it into 1?
We could do it as one, Mayor. We could do it as one for direct and central dispatch. We're looking at doing it with county because it's cheaper for the villages. You get a lot more out of it. You have to migrate all your information over from Kelcom so that you don't lose any of your information. We can do all that. It's just doing it individually is a little bit cheaper. County has so many departments they do it for. They have the large servers. We rent server space right now. We're in the process of purchasing our own server. But the fire side is because I was approached by a couple of firemen. I called some of the officers on the fire department that, we've been on scenes calling for help and can't get it. And that's an issue. I mean, some of you know me. I come into this town quite often on calls, especially major type incidents. And when you can't get help when you need it, it's a problem. It really is. And I'm not sure how the PD is. I know I have talked to a couple of officers that I haven't seen in a while, but I know Linwood PD, we got a real good working relationship with them, and they're like, God, we'd love you guys to get something for us, we can all be on the same radio system. We need backup, they need backup. When I had them switch channels trying to get help, it makes a big difference, it really does. It's an operational issue, and I know a lot of you probably don't understand the whole operational issue. When we first started doing this, I should have, and I've learned a lot over the years. And it's something that you guys need to seriously sit down and look at.
Yes.
I'm piggybacking on something Trustee Bell told us before. One of his issues is the lift. That a lot of times that, patients come out, they need lift assist, and we can't get it. So I was wondering how to address that. And also, do you have 2 personnel on board, or you have just 1?
On the ambulance?
Yeah, on the ambulance side.
On the ambulance side, I didn't come here to talk about ambulance tonight, but I will tell you, on the lift assist, it's a joint agreement between the fire department and Bud's Ambulance. We get on the scene and we got a heavy duty patient, and for the best interest of the patient and their safety, if Bud's can't get a second ambulance at scene in a timely manner, they will call the fire department.
Okay.
And I mean, if it's just a lift assist and the patient's not going to the hospital, there's actually no charge to that patient. Right? If you got to get somebody fell out of bed, got to get back in bed, or you got to get from the car into the house after a doctor's appointment, we come out and do that. There's no charges at all for the patients.
Any other questions?
And you have 2 people on?
All the ambulances are staffed with at least 2 emergency medical technicians, or a paramedic and an emergency medical technician, or 2 paramedics. There's 2 people on every single one.
Any other questions about the dispatch?
Yes, do you have any other towns that you're working with currently that you just dispatched from fire?
Not just fire. We do police and fire for Linwood, Dalton, and Arnold. We have 3 other towns that are currently looking at us just for fire side, because they're looking at Cook County for the P's.
Because most emergencies, when they're called out, they call out police and fire. I'm wondering
Yes.
if you have any experience dealing with towns that just use you for the fire side.
We don't have that experience. That would be a joint effort between us and Cook County. I mean, we have Cook County's radios in our dispatch center, so we know, like, I'll use Sauk Village unincorporated. We get a call for a medical emergency there, we dispatch them as a Sauk Village ambulance, and we know that county's responding by listening to their radio that they're in. If there's nobody available, we call Sauk Village and say, hey, can you send an officer over there? The county's got nothing available.
Do you have what you basically presented in a written form?
I do not, Trustee Williams. I can get you something. I was more interested tonight, I was just letting you guys know you can save some money, but that you need to make sure that the money you're spending currently is being used appropriately. That's the trick right now.
Because when it gets to that point, then it'll be asking for bids.
Right.
You have to do, you can't. I was gonna try to stop you before you said you can't give out prices now.
Right.
And if you go to a bid process, and then they can come back and say, well, you said this back then.
Right.
So, no, we can't ask them about how much it's gonna cost. When we get to that point, that's why I'm gonna have to look and research. I think our contract is year to year.
You just renewed last year, I believe it was.
In May.
And I believe.
So therefore, it's due.
I don't know if it was a year or a 5-year contract.
No, after the initial cost, it's year to year. Automatic renewal if we don't do it.
Right, which almost every single contract's.
Right, so it's automatic renewal, so at this point, you said about a surcharge, and I think there's a surcharge that we breached before that time. So, but still, in that particular time, I think Trustee Todd said it was May, so if it is May, we have the time to go out for bid, and have the bids presented, and then go from there.
Right, yes, you would have to do an RFP, there's no question about it, to be fair and to be logical about it. One thing you gotta realize, any changes you think about making, whether it's with us, Company B, Company C, this project takes about 6 months with the state of Illinois. If you think the state of Illinois is bad about love and everything else, deal with them with this stuff, it's horrible.
But that behooves us if we're gonna do something to do it now to get it
Well,
started.
at least start the motion. Right, exactly. Okay. All right, thank you for your time. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay. The next item is, trustee Brewer.
Can you pass these down? Mr. Mayor, no, this is a copy because, we ran out of paper up there, so use this as a copy. For one, item one, I'll give it to you, so we done for us. Okay?
Right, that makes sense.
Okay, give me another one. I need one from myself. This is a draft of a resolution to amend the authorizing agent of the IMRF, okay? This is a draft, okay? We want to amend the draft. This is Resolution R 2018-17. And if you look on through the resolution, you'll see that a former employee was here. So now we want to change that to the treasurer and also the payroll administrator. I talked to Finance Director Finch, and he suggested that we added the payroll administrator on along with the treasurer to make it more, responsive to the needs of the people. So that's the amendment for draft one.
Do we plan on presenting this to the ordinance review committee?
No, I think these just have to be amended. If
Sir.
they have to go in, right?
Certain ordinances come before us, and here, when it never came before us when they put the previous employee in there. It's never come before the ordinance review. What this is doing is saying we want a village administrator, or if we want the payroll administration, or if we want the treasurer to be that. That wouldn't come before ordinance review. There's certain ordinances that I'm looking at that she has listed here that yes, would come before us. But this is just designating someone to do the IMRF, which should have been done quite a while ago, because you have no one really in charge of it at this point. So, my suggestion is to have payroll do it. The payroll individual, because the previous payroll person did IMRF. You had one single person doing it.
Well, I'm sure somebody's doing it now. They have to be doing it.
I don't know who's doing it, but I know that the name has to be changed.
I am.
Okay, because with IMRF,
It defaulted to me because we didn't have anyone. And the reason why we didn't go any further because we didn't know what was going to happen. So instead of just putting the person gets wages, so right now it's just me, but then you're right, after that you can designate.
right, and IMRF, you have to go to class. It's not something you do online. You have to go to class to do this. So, it would not have to come before the ordinance review, but there's other ordinances I'm looking at here that yes, would come before us. So yours just to designate someone.
We're going to designate the treasurer and